cause it's all for the move. I know that I could always count on you to bring us all the new and latest news. And every day is a black man in this world. You know there's no one we'd rather hear it from. It's a Carlos Chaverst Jr.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Hope everybody is doing very well. Listen, this is the Carlos Chaverst Jr. show. You guys are streamed in live to Culture TV. We're on Roku. We're on Amazon Fire Stick. We're in your homes, wherever you are. Tonight is a very, very, very special episode of tonight's show. We are joined by a very special guest. There's been a lot of news lately around Bill Cosby. Everyone knows Dr. Cosby as globally as America's dad. So tonight we have a one-on-one exclusive interview with America's dad's publicist, Mr. Andrew Wyatt. Andrew is from Birmingham, from Bessemer, Alabama. He's a native of Alabama. And we'll talk a little bit about himself and all that. But I want you all to know we have a very, very, very good show in store. Tonight is about the life, legacy, and trials of Bill Cosby. So we're going to get in deep. We're going to talk about the life of Dr. Cosby. Dr. Cosby, as we've seen him on television. We're going to talk about the legacy of Dr. Cosby. Dr. Cosby has given so much money to so many people throughout the country and the world. We'll talk about that. And finally, we'll talk about the trials of Dr. Cosby. He was accused by over 60 women for allegations. We'll talk about all that and more right here on the Carlos Chaverst Jr. show. You guys are tuning in. Please do one thing for me: like the video, tag someone in the video, and finally share the video. And here we are. So without further ado, everybody, we're gonna bring Andre Wyatt. Andrew Wyatt.
How you doing,
man? How are you doing?
I am doing great. I want to first, thank you for having me on your show, and congratulations, man. We were talking, during the pre-show, and you and I was just talking about how I just watched you, just turn your career into something so amazing. I remember when you worked at ABC 30 through 40, Sprint, and now you're this amazing and renowned activist that's doing so many great things for the city of Birmingham, not just for the city of Birmingham, for the state of Alabama, but now you have a national show. So just thank you for having me on here, man. And it's an honor and a pleasure for me to be on here representing Bill Cosby and talking about, his life, his legacy, how the vacation of his conviction became one of the greatest victories in the history of jurisprudence. So it's an honor to be here and just to educate your listeners and watchers, viewers, on how and what took place and what happened in his life and where we are today and how things got started. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much, man. And you brought back some memories, man. That was about 10 years ago when I was working at ABC 30 through 40. I was skipping high school every single day to go and work at ABC 30 40 in their studio. So those were some fun times. But I certainly appreciate you, man. So we do go way back. So tonight, let's make this a very good night. We're going to talk about everything that we could possibly think of. You said that nothing's off the table. So, I'm taking that and I'm running with it, Andrew. So let's get into it, man. My first question, let's talk about yourself. Kind of tell the people a little bit about you. You're originally from Birmingham, from Alabama. I keep saying Birmingham, but you're originally from Bessemer, Alabama, if that's correct.
I grew up on the south side of Bessemer in the projects, 2613 Clarendon Avenue. All my life went to hard elementary school, hard middle school, then went on to just Lanier High School and matriculated at Miles College and graduated from Miles. And I started out in the studios at ABC 30 through 40, running camera and teleprompter, as you just mentioned. And had a lustrous career in the news business for ABC and Fox, and started my firm in 2007 and started working with a lot of, major people, major corporations, man. But even picked up people like Robin Givens, Bernadette Standish, who played Thelma on Good Times, Dominique Wilkins, and worked with a lot of promoters on bringing NBA games to Birmingham, exhibition games. So a lot of things, man. Had my hands in a number of things, and then God just really blessed me and just really groomed me for this moment to where I picked up Bill Cosby officially in towards the end of 2010, man. And
Okay.
met him and received a number of calls from people like Gary Kelly, the former news director of ABC 3040, because they want an exclusive interview with him. They heard he was coming to Birmingham February 2011. And they said, well, there's only one person who could get in touch with him. And then I was representing the National SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. They wanted access to him, Miles College. And it all worked itself out, man. I went through 30 people to get to him. And he called me back, Carlos. And the rest is kind of sort of history. We just kicked it off and hit it off. And Dick Gregory had the best comment in the world. That he said to me, he said, well, how old were you when you met Cos and you started repping him? I said, I was 37. He said, how old was Cos? I said, he was 73. He said, what year you was born? I said, 73. He said, look, N-word, the numbers don't lie. So it was meant to be, man. And, it's been a great opportunity to represent, I always say a guy at investment projects, man. And didn't have to leave home. I had so many relationships because the news business, ABC and Fox, man, they opened up the world to me, a world that I had never seen. Mm-hmm. So I just used that opportunity, and I used their money and their resources to generate those national relationships. Because just because I lived in and grew up in Bessemer, I didn't have to be local. I knew I could be national. I knew I could go globally, and that's how I did it, man. It was no set formula, no set strategy. Yeah. But I think it just, God just put you in the right place, and it's all about timing, and it was the right time.
Yeah, that's how God works, man. There's a time and place for everything, and the perfect opportunities, come to us when they come to us. So we appreciate you for being a vessel that you are. And tonight, we however we're able to get the information out, that's exactly what we want to do. So let's get into it, Andrew. Let's get right into it, man. So my first question for you about Dr. Bill Cosby. Okay. Just like everyone else in America, we all want to know just how is he? Know what to think about it. How is his well-being?
Look, Mr. Cosby is doing amazing, Carlos. This guy just turned 84 years old on July 12th. 84 years old. This is a guy who was given a 2-year, 10-month unwanted vacation in prison. Not just any prison. They had him in a level 5 maximum security prison. Mm-hmm. So he was in one of the worst prison that was deemed one of the worst prisons in the state of Pennsylvania. It used to be Graterford. And they shut Graterford down, and it's Graterford, the actual prison is still standing on that same ground. And they built a new prison called SCI Phoenix. And so that's where he was housed for 2 years and 10 months. But I can tell you, when Mr. Cosby if you talk to him today, man, you would think you're at a comedy show. He would start telling jokes. Talking about life, education, how the revolution is in the home, all of those platforms that he really focused on before any allegations ever came into his life. He never stopped those platforms. He took those platforms to one of the worst places that most people don't ever want to go, and that's prison. And he took the platform there, and he enhanced so many men's lives, man, and did so many great things for so many men, and not just men, but women who were correctional officers. I never knew that, but you probably have more female correctional officers than men in a lot of these prisons, and this prison, because of where it's centrally located in Collegeville, PA, it's not far from Philadelphia.
Okay.
So you mean like maybe 45 minutes and an hour away from Philly. So you have majority of people who work there are Philadelphians. So you get to see more Black people working there, some Hispanic people working there, and you got white people, of course, but you get to see your own. So
Yeah. Okay.
become familiar with some of those same correctional officers who went to Central High School, where he went to Central High School, and or he knew the high schools that they went to, like Bach out of Germantown or Martin Luther King Jr. High, and he was able to relate to these people, and he was able to get into their heads and talk about their families and talk about how they were doing. So it became, his laboratory in a sense. We always call it the Cosby effect, or the Cosby laboratory, where he puts you in his laboratory and he dissects you and determine, how he can give you some type of guidance to help make your life better. So he is doing amazing, and I can tell you, he's on the phone probably majority of the day, helping somebody with a problem.
So that leads me. I'm glad you said that. That leads me to my next question. So so we know how he's doing. So how is it? What is his day-to-day like? And you kind of just touched on it, but kind of go a little bit more in depth about his Dr. Cosby's day-to-day.
Well, look, when I of course when I got the call, Carlos, it was on Thursday, June 24th. I got a call from a young guy named Nick the Hat. Nick is Greek. He started his own news organization maybe 5-6 years ago. He's 28 years old now. And he called me. He's a huge fan of Mr. Cosby. But he has an organization called YC News, Young Content. And it's a bunch of white guys. And Nick is Greek, as I stated. You have Hung, who's Chinese American. You have a guy named Eric Norton. But and the rest of the news organization, they're a small news organization, and they tailor their news. It's all online, although they have a small little studio and that kind of stuff. So Nick calls me up and said, "Look, I've been monitoring everything, man. Look, Mr. Cosby, something's about to happen. Something's about to happen." And he said, "I think he's going to get out next week." And I knew Nick. He over sensationalized things, and he overhyped things up. But I got Debbie Meister out of our California office on the phone, and Kia Wilson out of our North Carolina office on the phone. And they both said, they got on the phone with Nick and they said, "Andrew, you need to go." And so,
where were you at the time? Were you in Philadelphia? Were you in?
I was here in Birmingham.
Okay.
I got the call, and I was contemplating not going. Look, Nick, I knew he was trying to redeem himself with me on stuff because I had stopped speaking to him. So I knew part of it, he wanted to redeem his reputation with me. And on some things and a story he had done that I didn't really care about. Now, this is the same guy, just to give you a little bit more background on him. He went and moonlighted with the National Enquirer. Okay. He was the guy that broke the news and the story on the affair between Jeff Bezos having an affair on his wife.
Oh, wow. Okay. I do remember that. Okay.
Yeah. So this guy, is big into the gossip world. So, you have to take what Nick brings you with a grain of salt. But everybody kept telling me to go. So I booked my flight. I get into the following week on Tuesday, June 29th. I get into Philadelphia. As soon as I land, I get to my place. I get a call from Nick. He said, "Look, something's going on. Something's going on." The district attorney, Kevin Steele, and this is the guy that prosecuted Cosby. Mm-hmm. He just has fined Mr. Cosby $500 for not cutting his grass on time. I said, "Well, what are you talking about, Nick?" He said, "Look, if you have a fine on you in the state of Pennsylvania, if you're about to be released, then they're not going to let you out. It delays the process."
Oh, so wow.
I said, "Nick, let me check it." So I get Debbie and Keel on the phone again.
Okay.
They check it out, call Mrs. Cosby. So I call Mrs. Cosby, and Mrs. Cosby, now she doesn't know I'm in Philadelphia. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Okay.
So, nobody knows I'm in Philly. And so I'm telling her, she said, come on, Mr. Wyatt. That can't be true. She said, get Jennifer Bungine on the phone. That's our appellate attorney. And she argued the appeal on Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. Mr. Cosby's appeal with the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. So I get her on the phone. She said, can you check this out and make sure it's true? I said, just give me 10 minutes. And I called the court, the district court, speak to a lady named Wendy. And I said, look, is this true that Bill Cosby has been fined $500 for not cutting his grass on time? She said, well, he's been fined for not cutting his grass. But Mrs. Cosby has been fined too. And she said, it's not $500. She said, they have each been fined $1,500 a piece. I mean, well, I'm sorry. $1,005 a piece. $1,005. Okay. So I was like, for not cutting their grass, who has time to monitor a district attorney?
Yeah.
Who should be fighting crime?
Yeah.
You have time to monitor people's lawn care.
Yeah.
So
they're really trying to just keep him in on anything.
Right, to keep him in. So I called Mrs. Cosby back. She says, I said, look, it's true, but it's not $500. I said, you owe a total of $2,010. I said, $1,005 has been fined on Mr. Cosby, and you also have been fined. She said, what? She said, hold up, I've been fined? I said, look, you have been fined. And she couldn't believe it. I said, I tell you what, I will go pay the fine in the morning. She was like, whoa. You're in Philadelphia? I said, I had to come to Philly. I got to take the train to New York. I have network meetings on some other projects I'm working on. And she said, no, it's none of my business. I just, normally you'll say, hey, I'm going to be in this city or that city. I said, look, it just caught me off guard. I had to be in Philadelphia. Yeah, she said, oh, no worries. She was like, well, she said, do you need to go by the house and get the car? I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm downtown right now. And she said, okay, great. So I go to the bank and I withdraw cash. I get a cashier's check for $2,010 made out to district courts. Mm-hmm. So I get an Uber. I'm in an Uber. No lie, Carlos. I'm in the Uber. And it's with this guy, Ramon, who speaks no English.
Oh, wow.
And Ramon, very little English. And I get a call from Nick again. My man, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Cosby, it's a wrap. He's free. I'm like, calm down. What are you talking about? Calm down. He said, Andrew, they vacated the whole thing. He's free. So I was like, Nick, bye. I hang up on him. I call Mrs. Cosby. I said, guess what? Mr. Cosby's free. She's like, stop it, Mr. Wyatt, stop it. I said, look, Nick just called me. You cannot believe Nick. She was like, she's like, Nick, I know he loves my husband, but you can't. I said, look, Mrs. Cosby. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me call the criminal attorney in Harrisburg, PA. That's the capital, Brian Perry. Let's just get him on the phone. Now, by that time, the Uber driver, who speaks very little English, realizes who I am.
Yeah, okay.
Take pictures now. Now I'm 5 minutes away from the courts, 5 to 10 minutes away from the courts. And so I get Brian Perry on the phone. I'm telling him with Mrs. Cosby, I said, look, Mr. Cosby's free. I'm about to get to the prison. And Brian Perry's like, no, it's not true, Andrew. I said, just go check your computer, man. You must have an order there. If it's not true,
someone's got to be there. Yeah.
And he goes to his assistant, checking his computer. He was like, holy crap, it's true. So I hang up on everybody. I show the Uber driver how to get to the house. Mrs. Atkins, their longtime housekeeper, it was her off day. She's been with them for 33 years. It's her off day. She just happened to be at the house because she said, well, I came in to just clean the guest house because I didn't do it on yesterday. And so I said, Mrs. Atkins, give me your car. I commandeered her car. And man, this car has never been on the interstate in its life. This lady lives in Delaware County, which is like an hour and 10 minutes away from Philadelphia. And she never has driven the interstate in her life. She only drives the roadway.
Wow, for 30 years.
Broad Street,
wow.
And Broad Street takes her everywhere. It takes you everywhere. So I get her car. TMZ's calling me. And I get on the interstate, man. My GPS told me it was going to take an hour and 15 minutes to get to the prison. I did 115 miles per hour in her car.
Whoa.
I got to the prison, Carlos, in 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I get to the prison. Helicopters everywhere, man.
Wow.
Like 2 to 3 helicopters, news trucks. So the officers at the gate, black and white female, they know me because I'm his only visitor, and plus because, you know, I represent him. I'm on television every day, representing his cause. And when I come to the prison, I always feed the officers when I can, you know, desserts, hoagies, cheese, steaks, whatever, to be nice to them. And because they take care of Mr. Cosby very well. And they let me through the gate. They said, drive to the front of the entrance of the prison. Just run in, Andrew. When I run into the prison, correctional officers are hugging me. You did it. You did it. And Miss Spivey, a black female lieutenant, she said, look, get back in your car. And it's hot outside. It's scorching hot. She said, follow me.
It's in the middle of June.
Right. She said, follow me as I walk. And she said, you're going to drive to the back. They told us we better have him out of here in less than 30 minutes. And I said, what? She said, so I get to the back of the prisons. Helicopters are everywhere. Lieutenants, correctional officers, trustees who are inmates. They're out there. People are crying, you know, shouting. And finally, one of the officers said, look, we're going to park. The major comes out. She said, we're going to park you in the garage area of the prison. They're about to bring him out any minute now. And they're wheeling him out in a wheelchair because he's blind. He can't see you or me. He went blind 8 years ago. They're wheeling this guy out. He hears my voice. He said, Andrew the Great. And I said, Mr. C. He said, friendship is essential to the soul. Got that right. And they were putting him in the car, and Officer Cunningham, he said, young William, I'm the one that processed you in. And young William, I'm the one that's
processing you out. Wow.
And they sat him in the car. Well, they woke him up out of his sleep.
Oh, so wow. He was asleep.
He's thinking he's dreaming. He's thinking all of this is a dream. He
doesn't
believe it's real.
Wow. Wow. So he was asleep when he got the news.
He heard all of this noise of inmates, no cursing, no nothing. Bill, get out of here. He said inmates starting to help him put his slippers on. They putting them on. They putting the right slipper on the left foot.
They just ready for him to get up out of there.
They're trying to get him up. Everybody getting him out. And he said they was rushing him out. He said, but he was dreaming. And he thought he was in a dream. And he gets in the car. He said, hey, man, is this a dream? I said, Mr. C, touch my arm. It's real. He said, look, man, you feel things in your dream.
Wow.
I said, Mr. C, it's real.
Wow.
I'm real. He said, man, my heart's racing. I said, look, do we need to get you to the hospital? He was like, no. I can't believe this is happening. He said, he's the only one that knew about this. I said, me, Nick. Nick is the one that called me, Debbie and Keel. He said, my attorneys didn't know. I said, nobody.
Wow.
Said, man, you just made history. You're going to go down to civil rights. I said, nope, I don't want civil rights. I said, our civil rights are not their civil rights. Their civil rights, Carlos, as I told Mr. C, is to murder us, execute us, us.
Oh, we already know.
I said, but I want equal rights. I want to go down in history for equal rights. He shake my hand, and no lie, the major comes to the car. She said, I have found 4 cars similar to the color of your car. We're going to give you an escort to the interstate. They escort me to the interstate, man. And just to let you know, and this is how I realized this is the real Bill Cosby. Okay. We get on the interstate. I'm driving. He said, boy, who car you got? I said, Miss Atkins. He said, oh, Lord. OJ had the white Bronco and you got the white Subaru. We in trouble, man. But that's how I knew, man. The guy looked great. He went in, Carlos, at 220 pounds. When he came home, he was 173.
Wow.
He prepared himself
Whoa.
off of.
He lost 50 pounds.
As he said, for the Iron Box, he prepared himself. He gave up, Carlos. He would call me every morning before sentencing. He gave up bread, desserts, all of the things he loved. And he never had those things in prison. And he said, look, I know they're going to try to murder me while I'm here and give me bad foods and affect my health. So he would wash his food off. He channeled Nelson Mandela. And everything Nelson Mandela told him that he did in Robben Island, Cosby did. So Cosby washed his foods off, washed all the salts off of his food under the sink in the prison. Wow. If they brought him eggs, he took a cup, put the eggs in water, and took them up and drained the water off. And that's how he would eat his food, man. Wow. And he never touched any bread, dessert, no coffee, none of that. Just drink water. And that's how he survived it, man. But I like to say that prison also saved his life, because in 2019, I was visiting him in prison, and of course he's blind, so he didn't know. His eyes were red like crayons, man, just red. And I never seen a person's eyes red like that. And I said, your eyes are red, your blood pressure must be up. And his clarity wasn't that great. I knew it. It was around August of 2019. And I went to the superintendent. I said, you guys don't do something now and get him to the doctor and check him out. I was correct. His blood pressure was high. And they got him to Einstein Medical. They don't tell you when they're going to take you out of the prison. They just surprise you in the middle of the night. Found out he had 90% blockage of his carotid arteries on the right side.
Wow. This is in 2019.
2019. So he had a surgery on the right side in September. And then he had the second on the left side done. They cleaned everything out. Didn't have to put any stents in. Cleaned off the plaque out. And man, when I visited him after each surgery, his eyes was like white as snow, man, just clear. And
but the general public didn't know that Dr. Cosby was had any operations during his time, or at least I don't recall reading that.
Well, I talked about it in a number of interviews, but national and mainstream media, they made sure they did a rinse of those things, man, because they didn't want people to have any sympathy for him. Zero sympathy. The prison that he was in, Carlos, was the most severely infected prison with COVID than any prison in the state of Pennsylvania. They had a total of over 100 plus inmates pass away of COVID.
Wow.
And a total of 60 officers die of COVID at his prison. Now, he wasn't able to social distance because he had to rely on help because he's blind.
Yeah.
But
wow.
They gave him COVID tests, and he never caught COVID while he was incarcerated.
Is Dr. Cosby vaccinated?
I can't discuss his medical history at all.
Okay.
I don't have the authority to discuss it. So.
Gotcha. Okay, no problem at all. So let's kind of get into the life of Dr. Cosby, and then we'll kind of get back more into that a little later. But I want to kind of talk about the actual life that Dr. Cosby lived, including to the shows that everyone around the world knew Dr. Cosby to be America's dad. He was known globally as America's dad. So we know that he had shows like The Cosby Show. He also wrote shows like A Different World, and he also had his music and Fat Albert as well. Does Dr. Cosby own any of those things? Because we haven't seen him, so does he own those things?
That's why you haven't seen them, because he owns them. You know, when you own, he owns 50% of the Cosby Show.
Okay.
He owns 50% of A Different World. The other 50% is owned by Tom Warner and Marcy Carsey. Tom Warner is his partner who owns the Boston Red Sox baseball team. Tom owns 25%. Marcy Carsey owns 25% of those shows. And the reason why is because Tom and Marcy, they funded those shows. They funded the pilots of those shows, the writers of those shows, and Cosby gave them those shows to give them the largest distribution deal in the history of television. You ever see at the end of the Cosby Show, A Different World, even the Roseanne Show, so many shows that were on at that time, you see Warner Carsey. That's because they had the distribution deal. Now, we have had streaming companies like Netflix and all kinds of different streaming companies that come and offer Mr. Cosby hundreds of millions of dollars, especially since he's out, to bring those shows back, but without his name. And the answer has been no. And it was no just a couple of days ago. Why would we remove his legacy from anything? You know, you want the shows, but how do you remove the man from the show? How do you remove
so they want the shows, but they want to remove Dr. Cosby from the shows?
They want to remove his name from the show.
His name, in which he owns 50% of.
Right. And so they want him to sell them the shows and give up the ownership of the shows. And of course, his answer was no. I'm not giving up any ownership. You know, that's the legacy. That's the legacy for all of us, but not just all of us, also for his children and grandchildren and their children.
Yeah, which is very big, you know, because as we look at, you know, like there's a lot of celebrities now, with Kanye West, for instance, who is dealing with an issue of being able to own his masters, you know, as an artist and all of that. So that is good that Dr. Cosby did in fact own his everything that he did. So now that there's a lot of people who are approaching him about his plans and the things that he owns, his shows. What are his plans for his particular shows? Do he has any particular plans?
Those plans are to not touch those shows. You know, run those shows the way they should, the way they were created. Okay, and you can put those shows back on the air the way they were created, but not tamper with those shows. You know, we've seen how they have taken and tried to do a reboot Jimmy Kimmel or Good Times. It's horrible. Yeah. Some things you just don't mess with. But in white America, Carlos, they love to sanitize us and sanitize who and what we are. Because if we have something that ignites a fuel into Black people wanting to be better than they really are and see themselves as priceless individuals, they're going to always try to rinse us away or sanitize us in some form of fashion.
Every single time.
And we cannot always say, well, I'm not going to leave any money on the table. Sometimes it's okay to leave money on the table. There's nothing wrong with leaving some money on the table. You know, when you go to Vegas, you leave a lot of money on the table.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I live by the philosophy. I tell everybody I bet on Black. I'm like Vegas. There's a reason why Vegas bet on Black. Now, it doesn't mean you could take Black everywhere you go, but there's nothing wrong with betting on Black, betting on our people, and betting on who we are, because we are a great people. That's what they're fearful of. You know, there was a song out some years ago back in the 80s, I got the Midas touch, everything I touch turns to gold. That's what Black people do. When we touch something, we turn it into something that they have never seen before. Yeah. You know, who would have ever thought that, you know, you could go buy a University of Alabama baseball cap and their colors are crimson and white, but you could buy the cap in different colors. You know why?
Right. Yeah.
Black people made baseball caps hot because we coordinate them with our shoes and our outfit. They understand what we're all about and understand how we turn something into something pretty amazing. So, and they fear that. We are a fear to them, but we have to understand we are a fear to them. And we have to take that and fuel that back into our communities and become the heroes of Black Wall Street that we always have been.
Yes, no, I totally agree, man. So it's been about a month and a half or so since Dr. Cosby has been free from prison. What are his upcoming plans? Is there anything that Dr. Cosby is currently working on?
Look,
Shows or anything? Give us some, Andrew.
When I got him to home, calls came from all over the place.
I bet they did.
And I can tell you, man, it was quite overwhelming. Okay, promoters started calling. As I said in my interviews, comedy club owners started calling. Various, nonprofit organizations started calling. Even had some colleges and universities who rescinded him started calling.
Really? We're gonna get into that. But really,
yeah. And so, people started calling, wanting him to do various things, partake in various events and stuff. Look, I got him in Mrs. Cosby's care on July 1st. It was Thursday, July 1st. I got him to their New York property. Mr. Cosby, when he walked in, and the staff, they had me on FaceTime because I had to stay at the Philadelphia home and handle interviews there because media was camped out and everything was happening there. So I was able to sneak him out and in his own Suburban with the Pennsylvania plates because they said, well, Mr. Cosby, where are you going? He said, I'm leaving here to go back to prison because I don't like it here anymore. I'm going to go see Camille. So, and he left the Philadelphia home, and I got him in the SUV. Matter of fact, I had nicked the hat and hung the guys at YC to drive him to New York. So people thought he was just leaving, going to see friends, and the beauty of it, it started raining, so it took the helicopters away, which was a good thing. So
cool. Okay. So they didn't get to follow him to New York.
They couldn't follow him to New York.
Yeah. Okay.
And I got him to the New York property, and when I told the staff at the New York property, I said, call me and put me on FaceTime. I want to see the reunion. And she calls him Billy, man. It was like watching this teenage love affair, man, that I wish that a lot of people could experience. Look, they've been married for 57 years. And she's been his business manager for 55 years.
Oh, wow.
57 years.
Wow.
All right, so everything you see is Camille Cosby.
Is her. Wow.
That's her.
Wow.
His body of work and all the stuff that he owns, that's her. Okay. Is her doing, her management style of him. And she had therapists at the house, Carlos. She had acupuncturists at the house. She had a couple of masseuses at the house. She had his chefs at the house. Mr. LaCrosse, who's been a long-time chef who travels with him, a 5-star chef, had him at the New York property. And I can tell you, man, she told him, you're going to get an Epsom salt bath. She had doctors to take his blood work. And she said, you're under my care now. Now, she's never liked him that small.
Wow.
She's going to give you a food transfusion. And, man, So
he's been over there eating good since he got out.
Been eating good, man. Look, Carlos, he's been eating good, okay? Because when his birthday came around on July 12th, she got on the phone with me on Monday, July 12th. She said, guess what I've done? And she was bragging for my husband. I added 12 good pounds to him.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And look, man, she said, I will be getting him out of here, Mr. Wyatt. She said, I will get him out of here in 10 days, and we will go to our Massachusetts compound. So that's where he's at now.
Okay.
He's at the Massachusetts compound. A matter of fact, when she got him out of there, I was in San Francisco, and she said, "Hey, I'm getting him out of here." I told her, I said, "Look, I gotta go home for a few days, and I'll be heading to San Fran." And she said, "Well, while you're heading to San Fran, we will be on the road, going to Massachusetts." And so she got him to the property, and she's been taking care of him ever since. Man, he is in good
Wow.
shape. He looks fantastic. He's doing well. His health is great. He just looks amazing, man. He looks great.
So a lot of people speculated, over the news that when Dr. Cosby was going through his troubles and everything, that his wife Camille Cosby would probably divorce him of something to that avail. Speak to that, Andrew, because it sounds like they have a very good marriage still. Their marriage is still intact. So speak to that part.
Look, man, that woman, when he left home from sentencing for sentencing, she looked at me and she said, "Mr. Wyatt, I'm expecting you to bring my husband back."
Wow.
And that was a heavy burden, Carlos. A very heavy amount of pressure. And that morning, like we always have done every morning, we always have breakfast together at 5 a.m. I go work out in the gym on the property, and then I'll come over and Miss Atkins would have our breakfast ready, and Mr. Murray would drive us, the driver. And all these people have been with them for years, okay, their staff. And I got in that car. He always sits in the back of the passenger seat. I always sit in the back of the driver. And we sit and we were just talking. And he said to me, "I know what my wife said to you, but Andrew, they're going to take me into custody today." And, I said, no, they're not, man. They're going to probably put you on this long-term probation. And, of course, they took him into custody. And Mrs. Cosby called me and she said, "I will be fighting for my husband, fighting this fight for him on the outside." And when I told her they had taken him into custody and I had to make that call, I said, it was the worst call I had to make, because I told her, I said, "Look, I said, the promise you wanted me to make, I couldn't make to you, because he's in custody. And he's in the custody of the state of Pennsylvania now. They own him now." And I said, "But Mrs. Cosby, I promise you, he's going to get out." And she said, "They want me to leave my husband. They will never get that, ever." She said, "I have been with this man for 5 decades. And she said, I'm not leaving this man because that's what white America wants." She said, "But they never forced Hillary to leave her husband."
Oh, wow. That's big. That's a big one.
Yeah, she
That's
said
a big one.
they never, she said, when he was caught. This is the president of the United States of America. And she said, "But no one said, leave your husband." They never stopped her from working. They made sure she stayed working. She was able to retain everything and gain more. But because I won't leave my husband, they want to strip everything away from him. They want to stop us from working, stop my projects as a producer. She said, "No, these people will not win." And she said, "I'm just asking you, Mr. Wyatt, would you stay on board in this fight with me?" I said, "Mrs. Cosby, I have a long-term situation with you guys, a lifetime situation with you guys. And I will not be leaving." And as I told her, I said, "Mrs. Cosby," I said, "some people collect cars, some people collect jewelry, some people collect artwork. I collect people. And you and Mr. Cosby are part of my collection for life. So I'm here for life." And that's the way it's been, Carlos. So what you see and you hear people say, well, she's going to leave him or she's not wearing her wedding band. First of all, Carlos, they haven't worn wedding bands in 35, 36 years, man.
Oh, wow. Okay. And see, real supporters know that.
Yeah, they just don't. And, I tell everybody, go to your great-grandparents' house. You probably won't see them with a wedding band.
I don't see my grandmother or grandfather wearing a wedding band, but they've been together probably about the same.
But they just know they know they've been together forever, and they don't need to prove anything to anybody about their marriage and about their love. And every relationship, there's no perfect marriage. There's no perfect relationship. I'm not saying everybody steps outside of their marriage or their relationship, but it happens. Mr. Cosby has never denied his infidelity. He's never denied that. And no one has ever said, that infidelity is a crime. But what he has done, if you go back and people just do the research, and, I was always disappointed in Oprah because Oprah could have come out and said, look, I interviewed him and Mrs. Cosby almost 15, 20 years ago. And we talked about the infidelity in the marriage. We talked about things. And we addressed those things, but those things are not to be addressed in the eyes of the public. For some reason or another, especially with the birth of social media, we feel that everything.
Oh my God! Yes.
Public. Like we act as if we owe people who are not going to pay one of our
explanation. We don't owe people for nothing.
We don't owe them nothing. But because of this world we live in, well, if you don't tell the people, they're gonna put out their own narrative. So what? So what? The gossip corner has existed since the beginning of time, okay? Let's go back to Adam and Eve, and we could go back and really talk about some gossip then. The gossip corner began in the garden. Okay, so, if we're never going to defeat the gossipers, they're going to stay and do what they want to do.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of how you respond to it.
Exactly. And sometimes, Carlos, the best response is no response.
And that's what and truthfully, Andrew, that's what get white people the most, okay? When they can't get any response out of you, So that's kind of what we see with Dr. Cosby. So that which kind of gets transition us now into his legacy, right? So let's start with this. I want to start with this question because a lot of people have said this, and I didn't know the truth to it or whatnot, but there was speculation that Dr. Cosby was preparing to purchase NBC. Speak to that. Was Dr. Cosby looking to actually purchase NBC?
This was happening in the early 2000s. Mr. Cosby, of course, he saved NBC from bankruptcy 7 times because his entire body of work from the Bill Cosby Show, Chet Kincaid, I Spy, all of those shows was NBC shows. And he has really saved NBC, saved him 7 times from bankruptcy. Also saved William Morris from the number 1 agency in the world from bankruptcy 6 or 7 times.
Oh, wow.
So he found out that NBC, they had put it on the market to be sold. He not only was trying to buy NBC at the same time, he was trying to buy the Cleveland Browns football team.
Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, he wanted to own the Cleveland Browns football team. And so when they realized Bill Cosby had this type of wealth, NBC immediately the next day take it off of the market.
Oh, wow.
They take it off of the market. And
so he was going to purchase NBC, but when they found out that he had the capital, the following day they took it off the market.
Took it off the market. He had a meeting with Jeff Zucker, who was the president of NBC at the time, and they were meeting in Mr. Cosby's New York home for dinner. And they were talking, Carlos, about him purchasing NBC. And Jeff tried to say something to the effect that, well, look, you're an entertainer. What do you know about running a TV network? He said, well, I saved you guys from bankruptcy 7 times. I must know something.
That's it.
And so Jeff made the smart comment, and he made some racial comments. This is a Jew. This is a Jew. And Mr. Cosby said, get your coat. Now he's thinking that him and Mr. Cosby are gonna go take a after dinner stroll.
A strolling.
And he said, get your coat. Got his coat. And he walked him to the front door and he said, look, get the hell out of my house, you Nazi.
Wow.
And Zucker vowed, he said, I will get you back for that one day.
Wow.
So Zucker becomes the president of CNN, and they parade the women out against Bill Cosby.
And so what years did this start?
This started in 2014.
Okay.
October 2014, when the accusations happened, and they started parading the women out. And Zucker had his best friend, Bob Huber, Philly Magazine. To tell you how it happened, it was a comedian, Hannibal Buress. Hannibal Buress, black comedian.
Yeah, Hannibal, yeah.
Is performing in Philadelphia, 2 shows. Bob Huber, he wrote an article for Philly Magazine, works for Philly Mag, what it's like to be a white man in black Philadelphia. Very racist article. Jewish guy as well. And he hated Cosby. He hated Bill Cosby because Cosby settled out in 2005 for charges should never be brought against him, against Andrea Constant. And Huber was trying to parade women out at that time. And he's always been angry at Cosby because of that he settled and he didn't get to take Cosby down in 2005. So Huber goes on Reliable Solutions with Brian Seltzer.
Brian Seltzer, okay, yeah.
And he goes on the show and he said, look, everybody, don't let Ferguson take Bill Cosby out of the news. And don't let the holidays take Bill Cosby out of the news. Now, remember, Ferguson was happening because of Mike Brown. And he's telling white people, forget about what happened to this black man being murdered by a white cop, but do not let it take Bill Cosby out of the news.
Out of the news, wow.
All right, keep it going. Let's ruin him. That's what he's saying. CNN's paraded the women out. Now, Philly Mag, what Bob Huber had a freelance journalist to do, they paid Hannibal Buress to do the joke, calling Cosby a rapist. They take that material. It didn't catch on the first show. The second show is when it caught. They make it go viral because they run the joke on their social media platform, Philly Magazine, and that's when it comes out. Bill Cosby is a rapist. Hannibal Buress calling him a rapist. That's how it got started. Hannibal was promised all these movies, TV deals. At the time, if you remember, he was on all of the Tonight shows. Look at him now. You can't even find him anywhere. You can't find him. They just used him. He was the spook that sat behind the door. And there's an actual book called The Spook That Sat Behind the Door. But this guy, as we've seen through the history, our history, man, they have always used somebody that looked like us to take us down. Look, it was somebody that looked like us that tried to stop Harriet Tubman from freeing slaves.
Absolutely. You know, they always use they use people that look like us to do the thing with Dr. Martin Luther King, but that's a whole different other story, you know.
Because we trust our own. Of our own. And they're smart. Let's send one of I told Mr. Cosby when I took over everything and fired all the attorneys and private investigators, and I started overseeing the entire strategy. I said to him, I said, look, man, when things come out against you and a firestorm comes in your life, you got to look at the people around you, because it's never started far away. It started with the people around you who know enough about you. And that's how it starts, Carlos. But yeah, when they realized this black man had this type of wealth, you know, and just to go through it a little bit, Bill and Camille Cosby owns one of the largest African American art collections in the world, valued at $2.5 billion.
Oh wow.
Billion.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. 2.5 billion. That's a billion with a B.
With a B. Okay.
Wow.
You know, in their collections, and look, it's a painting by Henry Tanner called the Banjo Song that's owned by Hampton University. He wanted to buy the university just to get that one painting.
Wow.
So I'm just saying.
Wow. Hey.
Just the collection, okay?
Yeah.
Now, this man, Carlos, he has a house in Elkins Park, PA, Montgomery County. 3 acres in the middle of Elkins Park. Nobody has that type of acreage. Okay, this is the house that his mother cleaned, that he bought for her. And said,
wow.
How you clean, I'm buying for you. He bought this in the 80s.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
With the guest house and everything, okay? All right. He lives on 20,000 acres, his primary residence in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts.
20,000 acres?
Acres. He bought this in 1970, Carlos. Okay. He buys 5,000 acres of land every year and puts it into a trust for conservation, because Mrs. Cosby she's into the environment, and she's into she goes after Whole Foods and Walmart for better wages for people. She fights them. Okay, the house in Pacific Palisades next to Steven Spielberg, he bought this in the 80s. He got leather floors in this house.
How many?
Has leather floors.
Leather floors.
Leather floors. Okay, now, okay, he has 2 houses, Carlos, on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. The house on East 61st Street, he has not stayed in this house in 30 years.
Wow.
In 30 years. They call it their office. I'm talking about, now, next door to them, who lives next door to them is Ashford and Simpson. Well, wow. Ashford has passed away now, but Valerie Simpson. The house on East 71st Street, that's called Millionaires Row.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
That's the house they live at when they're in New York. That house, Carlos, it was a French school. He bought the entire school in 1984 for Mrs. Cosby's birthday. Took him 4 years to gut the school and turn it into a house. Now, both of his New York homes got elevators in it. Okay, he has elevators in these houses. Okay, remote control walls. You could ask, I hosted a dinner at the New York house for Curtis Pickens, who's my cousin.
I know. Okay.
And his wife, Judge Deborah.
Yeah,
Pickens.
Judge Pickens. Yeah, I know them very well.
I know they talk about you, speak highly of you.
Oh, wow.
And our cousin, Senator Bobby Singleton.
Bobby Singleton, okay.
Okay, so I hosted a dinner for them. They could tell you about this New York home. It has remote control walls in the kitchen, from the dining room to the kitchen. They've been there. Okay, this house, he has the second largest house on Millionaires Row. You know who has the first largest house across the street from him?
It has to be a billionaire.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, okay, a billionaire. Okay.
And Cosby has sold 2 homes to the Japanese embassy in New York.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
They own, Carlos, an art gallery in California. They own 3 parking lots in Santa Monica.
Wow.
Okay, he owns 17,000 acres in Maryland. That was just for his dogs. He won Westminster Dog Show twice.
Wow.
When
he bought 17,000 acres just for the dogs?
Just for the dogs. When he was training dogs, and he won Westminster Dog Show twice when they would not let black people in Westminster. His captain from the Navy, Captain Jean Heath, white woman, she's in her 80s now, and they had a groomer. So to really show them you wasn't going to let me in, you know what they call themselves, their group? The Black Watchers.
Oh, wow.
And so he won twice. His dogs, he probably made $40 million off each dog
Wow.
that won Westminster Dog Show.
Man.
Okay, so he has now. Mrs. Cosby owns all of her family land in D.C. That's another 15,000 acres.
Wow.
So what I'm saying, Carlos, they bought this stuff in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
So imagine what it's worth today.
That's what I'm saying. So
wow.
When people, as he always told me, Carlos, he said, "Look, man, wealthy people, we just don't have cash just sitting in the house like that. When we want cash, we just go sell an acre, and you okay?
And you good? Yeah. Wow.
Good." And he said, "Look, man, we don't wear flashy jewelry. This guy had 400 cars, man. 400 cars.
400 cars?
Look, Shelby gave him the first Shelby made.
Really? Wow.
And he, but he's given a lot of those cars away to friends as gifts, and all kinds of things. He just gives. He's really kind-hearted. That's Carlos. These are people who gave over $200 million to education, to HBCUs and public white institutions. These are going to
get into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, but these are people who took $1 million of their money in the 60s when Black people were not allowed to be hairstylists and wardrobe artists and makeup artists in Hollywood. They would tell them, "Oh, well, you have to have a license and you have to be trained and you have to go through this process." Cosby them said, "Okay." They went and got Black hairstylists, wardrobe artists, makeup artists. And they said, "No, we're going to put out $1 million in 1960. We're going to train them, educate them, and get them certified and pay for their licenses." When he saw a white man flip a car in I Spy and they painted the guy down, he said, "Man," he said, "how much you paying this white guy to do that?" And they painted him down black. He said, "Look, man, I got some guys in North Philly that could do that for $20. And he started the Black Stuntmen's Association. He helped started that. And now when you see Black people and Black women and stunt women and stunt men, it's because
Cosby started that. Wow.
Yeah. So look up the Black Stuntmen's Association. They're working on a documentary about that.
Oh wow.
Noni Roberts, she's doing a documentary. She's the director behind the Black Stuntmen's documentary. But it's the history, man, of what these people have always fought for, Carlos. Mm-hmm. And it's the history of how they have tried to use their body of work and their celebrity to humanize all races, genders, and religions, but especially us, to say you don't have to depend on a white man to go and give you something. Look, this is a man who bought Mrs. Cosby a G4 for her birthday, and she bought him a Pilatus airplane for his birthday 30 years ago. Yeah, and this is a man who said to Jesse Jackson, "Look, when he ran for president, I don't want you to have to go and ask the Jews for a dime." So he gave him $1 million, paid his house off that he still lives in Chicago, paid all his bills off, all his debts. They purchased him a house in D.C. because they said, "Well, look, if you're going to be campaigning, you're going to need a place to stay in D.C." They still own that house in D.C. And gave him their plane to use and travel with. But where's Reverend Jackson when he got in trouble?
When he got, wow.
They disappeared. They dissipated as if Houdini was still alive.
So we're seeing some similar things that are happening literally right now with Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York. He just announced today that in 14 days he is resigning. Just as early as last week, the president of the United States renewed his call for Governor Cuomo to resign. In addition, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and so many others have called on Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign in the wake of his situation that's happening. What is Dr. Cosby's thoughts as it pertains to Governor Cuomo's situation today?
No evidence, no proof.
No evidence, no proof.
No evidence, no proof. He said, Andrew.
And it's all word of mouth, right?
Word of mouth. He said, just like the 60 women, the 60 distractors that came out against him. No evidence, no proof. It's just saying something happened. You know, you wait 30, 40 years now. These people, as Mr. Cosby stated, he said, I love what Cuomo did. He said, man, he basically said, you know what? I'm gonna go smoke me a cigar. Y'all can have this job. You know, do what you want to do. Have it. And he said, but he went out with style. He went out with style. And he told the people, you know, I didn't know a line was ever drawn in the sand to say that you can't hug a woman anymore, or congratulate someone with a hug or a kiss on the cheek. You know, who makes that decision?
Yeah.
As Mr. Cosby said, in America, who's that gatekeeper that has determined that that's not how you can operate anymore? And
today is the social media world. It's this social media world.
But you know, and it was sad to see Biden join that Salem witch hunt. Because it wasn't too long ago, the same thing happened to him for hugging and being affectionate.
With women and children. Yes.
Right. So he was doing the same thing.
The exact same thing.
The pot called the kettle black in this circumstance, right?
Yeah.
You know, so how do you say he's wrong, but you were just doing the same thing, making the same excuse for that same behavior?
Yeah.
What they have said, Carlos, you know, they had a captive audience when Cuomo showed us how to be a true diplomat and how to handle a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Press conferences every day.
Every day. Educating people every day. Then but the biggest mistake, they said, we're not going to let an Italian be president in the White House. Not going to let that happen. And he's single. This is nothing new, man. These are the revolutionary tactics that people have used for centuries on us.
Yeah.
And Bill Cosby became the litmus test for all of this stuff. You know, he was tested, tried, true, and tested on how to take down a man with no evidence and no proof. Just the mere fact that she said so, and women don't lie.
And it really all stemmed from the national MeToo movement. And unfortunately, Dr. Cosby was the first kind of celebrity to fall victim under the MeToo movement. Following him, you had Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Kevin Spacey. So many other guys have fallen victim to the MeToo movement. What is Dr. Cosby's thoughts around this, the MeToo movement that basically had taken him out of the game with a movement that gained a lot of traction, but basically no evidence really comes very much of any of this. So what is Dr. Cosby's thoughts on the MeToo movement?
On Wednesday, June 30th, you know, we destroyed the MeToo movement. The state Supreme Court vacated his conviction for in perpetuity, saying that, you know, it was a reprehensible bait and switch, that they denied this man of his constitutional rights and his due process. You know, that's what happened, because when Cosby got out, they said this is the end of MeToo. Wow. They had to find a way to bring it back. And they had to find someone that they can lynch. And Cuomo was the person. Look, they could not get him out when they tried to say, well, he let hundreds and thousands of people and senior citizens die in nursing homes because he didn't tackle the COVID issue in the nursing homes. Well, look, you can't fight it all, because it's a virus that was hidden places before. When you close your eyes or you blink, the virus was really taking its form in a place. Yeah, and by the time you got to that place, lives were lost or people were sick. So it was nothing that he can do about it. Because the pandemic, it was God's plan to show America that everybody's on an even playing field. He made it equal for everybody. No one, normally wealthy people get on their private planes and go to another country. Well, they couldn't even go to another country because everything was halted. The country was halted. So we destroyed MeToo. I don't really feel MeToo, which was created by a Black woman, as I've always said, it's from the very beginning, it's been the Becky movement. It's the platform for when white women don't get what they want now. They will Me Too you. You know, they will come out and say, I didn't like the way you hugged me. I didn't like the fact that you said I got a nice pair of shoes. It made me feel uncomfortable. You know, so now we're in this world of canceling the culture and canceling the way we move and how we conduct our everyday lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I say to the masses out here, we can't conform because Me Too don't speak for every woman.
Yeah.
You know, Me Too speak for women who have an axe to grind because their careers didn't get elevated, or they didn't get something, or they didn't get. It could be something so minimal as he didn't pay for my hair, $25, but that meant something to them at that moment, and so they come out as a victim. Well, he hurt my feelings, or he gave me advice when I didn't want advice. But don't you have the ability to get up and leave and just tell a person, hey, I don't want your advice? You know, you can't always blame something on somebody being so powerful. That's why you want to work for that person, because that person is powerful. Nobody wants to work for the powerless. They want to work for the powerful.
So, Andrew, is this the end of Dr. Cosby's legal troubles?
No, we have a civil matter with Gloria Allred. I call it Gloria Awful Red. We have, matter of fact, this Friday in Los Angeles, there was a civil matter between Judy Huff and Bill Cosby that got a permanent stay. It was permanently stayed because of his conviction, and it's been institutionalized at SCI Phoenix. And so it was given a permanent stay because they did not see him getting out of prison at all. They did not see his conviction being overturned. So Gloria stood before the judge, Judge Carlin in California, and said, hey, I don't have a problem with the permanent stay. He's never getting out, and he's probably going to die there. So Judy Huff is a woman who made an accusation that Cosby, alleged accusation that Cosby sexually assaulted her when she was 15 years old at the Playboy Mansion. You know, and first off, why are you at the Playboy Mansion at 15 years old?
At 15 years old, yeah, like that's the real question here. Why are your parents not being prosecuted? Why you're not being prosecuted?
Exactly.
You know?
But there's a law in California that says that if you were sexually assaulted or molested in any way as a minor, and you repress it, and something jars that repression and make you remember it again, that you could bring a civil matter forward. We went to Gloria Allred in the news, in the media. I released a press release maybe a month ago. I said, look, remove the permanent stay. We're ready to fight this issue. We're not going to give you any money. If we have to go to court, we will go to court. But we have the evidence to show that Mr. Cosby was not at the Playboy Mansion, that she was not even 15. So this Friday, they will be in court asking the judge to remove the permanent stay. I'm pretty sure he will. And we will go through that process. And if the judge don't throw it out, we will go through the process of getting prepared to go through a trial and do discovery and that kind of stuff. It will be a civil matter. It's not going to be a criminal matter. And we'll have to hedge our bet on Mr. Cosby's constitutional rights not being violated. But what we're saying to the judge, this should be thrown out. We saw what happened to him in Montgomery County. He's not going to get a fair shake because everything is too heightened right now. And so we'll see how it shakes out on Friday.
Okay. And so I guess, based upon how things play out, then that'll determine how you all move forward. Now, let me ask this. Does Dr. Cosby feel that his legacy has been erased?
Oh, no. Look, man, the legacy is still there. You can still see the Cosby Show. Look, nobody can erase who and what you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't erase that. His name is still William H. Cosby Jr. It goes by Bill Cosby. No one can erase that. They can't erase the human being. They tried to erase that. But Carlos, my job and goal was always to humanize him the way he had tried to humanize so many others. So it was always to tell his story. Whenever I had a visit with him, I would do an interview with some entity, no matter how big or small. But I relied heavily, Carlos, on shows like your shows. And that's why, Mr. Cosby, we understand it's shows like your shows that keep the legacy going. And America want us to discount your shows because they don't want you guys to exist. That's why I love taking these type of interviews. I was on the phone with Dr. Oz, producer today, Jennifer, and their upcoming season. And she said, well, we still want to have you, Andrew, on the upcoming season show. And I said to her, I said, look, I'll be happy to do the show. It's not a problem. I said, but Jennifer, my joy is to do shows like a show I'm doing this evening with Culture TV with a guy named Carlos Chaverst. I said, because those are shows that are going to put out the truth and the facts. Those are the shows that are going to keep it gritty. And those are the shows that are going to ask all of the questions and nothing's off the table. But they're going to do it in a way, in a respectful way. It's not any got you news, got you journalism. Yeah. It's not the journalistic malpractice that we see from mainstream media.
Every single day, right. Yes, this is not that.
Right. And look, just for example, 2 weeks ago, I would give Variety magazine an interview. So this writer, Kate Arthur, she said, well, since you're not going to give me an interview, I'm going to print that the Lionsgate docuseries with Bill Cosby has been canceled.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Published the article. And if you read the article, in the body of the article, she said, a source tells me. She doesn't say Lionsgate told her. She talked to an executive. She just talks about a source. But I'm not giving people those interviews. And she did publish my email to her. I said, you're no different than a lot of these media insurrectionists. You're a part of that insurrectionist group of media people who your only goal and desire and job is to take people down with no evidence, no proof. You don't want to hear the truth and facts of anything. And so that's why I enjoy doing these shows. And that's why I make it an opportunity to give these shows an opportunity to be highlighted. We promoted this show and this interview on Mr. Cosby's Twitter page.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. Yes, sir.
We want the world to see that a show like yours exists. And as Mr. Cosby said, and I don't know when, it could be this year, it could be the first part next year. We're going to schedule a meeting at one of his homes and invite journalists in, like you have your own shows, to do a round table with him, to talk with him and record it some way. And it's being streamed on all of y'all's sites at one time. And you guys get to ask him questions. So we want to use his celebrity to, hey, he couldn't buy NBC, but he can buy these shows, kind of.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't let him buy NBC, and we have NBC because we say NBC today doesn't stand for the National Broadcasting Corporation. It stands for No Bill Cosby.
That's it. No Bill Cosby. NBC. No Bill Cosby. NBC. No Bill Cosby.
That's it.
So, Andrew, you kind of alluded to the Dr. and Miss Camille Cosby had given, you said, upwards of $200 million to various colleges, organizations, all that stuff. Now, when Dr. Cosby's legal troubles began somewhere around 2015, a lot of these colleges, a lot of these organizations start to withdraw their initial whatever they had given. It'd be a honorary degree to Dr. Cosby. They began to take those back. Well, my question to you, Andrew, have those same institutions or organizations given any of that money that Dr. and Miss Camille Cosby had given to these institutions? Have any of those funds been returned?
No money has ever been returned.
No money has been returned? Zero?
Look, these what's so sad about these HBCUs, man. And I'll say all of them, because these HBCUs today have lost their mission statement. They were given a mission statement to educate Black people, not to go educate them to go work for somebody, but to become entrepreneurs. That was the birth of the HBCU. So Black people can start their own businesses, and because they were not being able to be educated at public white institutions, and they were not allowed to go and run a white corporation or something, a sort of white business. So that's why we were created. And it's sickening and sad to see that our boards are controlled by corporate executives who tell these institutions, well, you got to remove yourself from Bill Cosby, because if you don't, I got to remove my money from your institution. Well, there's a such thing called loyalty. This man was loyal to HBCUs before there was a Fantastic Voyage, and before you see people now who want to do something just to say they gave to an HBCU, and they're very selective on which ones they want to do something for. It's always Spelman and Morehouse.
Yep.
And sometimes Howard, maybe now because of the vice president being a graduate of Howard University. But then they're very selective on which ones they want to survive. And they only pick those because those are the HBCUs that have the national name and the brand where they can get the mileage out of. And they always know how to use us. And, like I said, we're an interesting group of people, man. We're the same group of people that turned on God when he delivered us out of bondage, which that's what Egypt represents, bondage. We turned on Moses, our teacher. So it doesn't surprise me on how they operated with Mr. Cosby, but, we have shown people that you could come save us from drowning, man. But when it comes down to it, it's something about us that want to be associated and accepted by white folks.
Yeah.
we got this stigma. We don't feel validated until a white person hug us and embrace us so Black people can see it. We watch our
every time
corporate executives. I watch them very closely. Black political figures, Black leaders. It's something. I'm like, you already got the title, and hopefully you got a little money to go with the title. Why do you need the white man to embrace you and to validate you? You don't know how to validate yourself, but it's because they're forever Carlos on the plantation.
Right.
And they don't know that, and you know what? And they don't ever want to leave Candyland.
Yeah, they don't, and that's the thing, and I tell people all the time, man, I say, man, I can tell who your ancestors were through you, through the things that you're saying. I couldn't have got along with some of these folk ancestors. Harriet Tubman didn't get along with some of these folk ancestors, and it shows in them today. The same folk who did not want to go with Harriet Tubman when she was trying to show them the way. Okay, are their same grandchildren and great-great-great-grands today who are still holding doubt against us, who are still holding us as a people back?
You know why? Because it's in the DNA. It's in the bloodline.
That's it.
And some things that's why some people want a purebred dog, right? Because the bloodline is good. And so so some things you're not going to erase out of people's bloodline because they've seen the validation of what white people can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
They can accept you into the private clubs. They can make you feel welcome, and you get to look at your black friends and say, "Look at me." Look, I tell everybody this: when a person goes out and buys, especially a black person, when they go out and buy all these luxury cars, they don't buy them for white people. They buy them for black people.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people ain't impressed by it because they've had them before you could have ever had them.
Yeah.
They don't really care for even owning them when you think about it.
So Andrew, we're going to take a couple of questions from our Facebook audience, and as we wrap it up here, Jeff Galmore, he said, "Mr. Wyatt, please list the names of the HBCUs that took money from Dr. Cosby."
Look,
put them on the spot.
From Morehouse, Spelman, Howard, Hampton, Clark, Miles College, my alma mater. I don't think Miles never rescinded him. I know Dr. French didn't when he was their president. I don't think Bobby Knight would either, the president of Miles. But man, the list goes on and on, man. It's so many I can't name. But definitely, man, the hundreds of millions of dollars given to all of them, man, that they just turned. North Carolina A&T, Fisk University, Tuskegee.
And some of these schools can't afford to turn on nobody.
Man, Southern, Grambling, so many, none of them can afford to
yeah.
But
if they could, they would have taken the money to begin with.
Look, man, when you have the president of the Koch brothers that sit on your board and they tell you, well, do away with him. Do away with him and we'll give you the money back. And just do away with him.
Wow.
And we'll replenish your board, we'll replenish your school with the money. It never happened though. They did away with Bill Cosby and they never got.
But the Koch brothers never came through. As white people leading you, they'll lead you straight every single time.
Man, every time.
It's like they use Hannibal, man. They'll lead you straight every single time. Someone, Dante Salters, asked, he said, "Hey, Andrew, will the docuseries provide a good amount of receipts for the public? I believe a great doc could do wonders in repairing Mr. Cosby's public standing."
Yes, it's going to provide things that Carlos and I talked about. You're going to get to see all of those things that we're talking about. We're gonna put everything out there, man. Nothing's off limits. It's going to be a 5-part series.
Okay.
And nothing's going to be off limits. We're going to tell a story that nobody wanted the story told. We want to talk about, all of the people he helped. A lot of people who didn't return those phone calls and who counted him out, man. So we're going to talk about all of those things.
So has justice been served?
Look, justice was served because we said that this was always bigger than Bill Cosby. This was about every black man in America. And justice was never be served, though, Carlos, until we as a people, serve justice for ourselves and serve justice within our own communities and understand the revolution is in the home. That's how justice is served. That's how we defeat this racism that we see today and this hatred that we see today for black people and brown people. The only way we're going to defeat it, we have to merge our resources together, and we have to highlight each other for our own greatness, man. I tell everybody, as I told you earlier, I had been advising R. Kelly's team for 2 years. I was advising his family who flew to New York 2 weeks ago and met with me and friends. And I've had supporters to raise money online, trying to bring me onto the team to handle his crisis management. But look, man, but I did it all pro bono because, as I always said to Robert Kelly's family, I said, look, everybody walks into a courtroom with a cloak of innocence, and it's up to the prosecution to remove that cloak of innocence And the way this was described to me by Dr. Ava Muhammad, I did a show, and she talked about the cloak of innocence, and it was just so brilliant and so moving for me. And I agree with her. Everybody does walk into a courtroom with a cloak of innocence, and it's up to the prosecution to remove that cloak of innocence, but remove it within the confines of the Constitution, without denying you your constitutional rights and your due process.
Absolutely, yeah.
Two important elements, two important tools, essential tools of the Constitution. That's the 5th and 14th Amendment, and that's to protect the powerless, whether rich or poor, against the powerful, which are the gatekeepers in the judicial system. And for Robert Kelly, the same thing, man. They stripped him of his due process, no bail, while he awaited a trial. So how do you really defend yourself? You extradite him to New York City, and you get this man in New York City. Well, he doesn't have the funds or resources of a Bill Cosby. Now his attorneys got to come out their own pocket to get to New York to meet with their client. You take away their due process, their constitutional rights. And we have to always remember one thing, that in 1776 the Declaration of Independence was formulated. Well, it wasn't until 87 years later, in 1863, that the Emancipation Proclamation was brought into law. Well, when they freed Black people, they said, we can't let that happen. So what did they start? Convict labor. The whole 13th Amendment, man. That's how they got us back into slavery.
Yep.
And so that's what they did with Bill Cosby. It was truly convict labor. They said, look, we don't look at this American citizen who served in the Navy for 4 years as an American citizen of the United States. So they tried to take his constitutional rights away. They said, well, no, he's not emancipated. We can't let him be emancipated. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to try to take that emancipation away. And we said, no, he's free. He's running around here trying to buy NBC. He's trying to buy the Cleveland Browns. He's trying to own the rights to his life and his shows and his catalog of work. No, we're going to do convict labor. We're going to put this guy in prison.
Well, at 70-some years old, almost 80 years old, and so we're going to take a couple more questions. We're going to let you go, Mr. Wyatt. So one question from Frank Matthews, and a huge shout out to Frank. Frank is how we were able to connect on this.
Frank is my guy, man. Frank is a guy that I really admired in high school, and my mom made it happen where I could meet Frank Matthews when a guy named Terry Massey was running for mayor of Bessemer. So Frank is somebody I always looked up to, and he just got a style, man. When I said the baseball cap on the election, Frank wore a matching baseball cap with the outfit to drive the antique car, man. Frank's my guy.
Yeah, Frank is it, man. So Frank asked, he said, Andrew, can you speak to Dr. Cosby's son that was killed?
Well, he wasn't killed. He was murdered.
He was murdered.
He was murdered by a guy from the Ukraine in 80. It was in the late 80s. I mean late 90s. I'm sorry, late 90s. And he was murdered. And Ennis was helping a young lady change her tire. He was driving Mrs. Cosby's expensive Mercedes, very expensive car. He had over $5,000 cash in his pocket, and he had a Rolex watch on. And the guy, Markson, I think that's his name. It's a Ukraine name. He walks up to him and just shoots him in the head.
Wow.
Shoots him in the head. And that was Dick Gregory, and we've always said that was the hit on Mr. Cosby's son when he tried to purchase NBC.
Wow. So his son, wow, that's big, to hear that was an actual hit on Dr. Cosby's son. Mm-hmm. Two final comments from our Facebook audience. Tremel Reed Selby asks, Mr. Wyatt, has any of the cast from the Cosby Show or A Different World reached out to Dr. Cosby?
Some, but not all. Some, but not all. Look, we know the ones who showed up to the trial and the ones who have stood by him. Felicia Rashad has been, just a rock.
And they're trying to counsel her for a tweet that she put out, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And Keisha Knight Pulliam, who played Rudy, she was great, but other cast members, no. You know, those people, we haven't. You know, they would check in with the California office, Debbie in California, but we were trying to get them to come to the trial. They would not come. Malcolm wouldn't come. Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Wow.
None of the people would come. They did not want to hurt their careers, man.
Wow. You know, and it's so sad, man, how we put money above.
Have the careers if it wasn't for Bill Cosby.
Wow. And now they're trying the same careers who the same people who built their careers off of him wouldn't even show up for him in his time of need. That shows you how people are, man.
We reached out in 2017 asking them to come to the trial. Every excuse was made. You know, it was just all kinds of excuses made. But Keisha Knight Pulliam showed up. Joe Torre showed up. Comedian Louis Dick showed up. You know, we had some people to show up, man. But it was disappointing, man. You know, all of the clergy that he gave over $40 million to, they stood us up. They never showed up to the trial.
Wow.
You know, they would not. I'm talking about from churches to faith-based organizations. Nobody showed up.
Wow. You know, it shows how quickly, you know, you can give people something, and then the minute that you need somebody, they're not there in the same way that you're there for them. One final question from Facebook. Brandon Bowers. Brandon Bowers is also from Bessemer, Alabama, so shout out to him. Brandon said your next old fashioned is on him.
So we'll make it happen, man. Whenever.
But Brandon actually said, when is the Andrew Wyatt book or movie coming out?
Look, we Mr. Cosby and I, we are working on a book together. It's my book that he is narrating. He has named it. He has called it. It's going to be called My Turn. And the cover, you will see him on the cover pointing at me. And he is telling everybody it's my turn. And so it's going to be a beautiful book. And it's a book that we have been working on for a while. And I told him that it was no way we could complete it until we got this moment of his conviction being vacated. And now we're at this place in life where we could really talk about my turn. And yeah, several people have reached out to me about movies and opportunities. People in LA, people in Hollywood have reached out to me. So, well, we want to do a movie on what we've never seen this done before. No one does it like you. But look, we'll cross that bridge one day. My focus right now, Carlos, is to create this legacy and do this restoration of legacy for Bill Cosby. And that's the focus right now. And to continue to humanize him, to look at, we've had promoters from overseas offer us $5 million for him to just do 2 shows in London, in various places. So we'll cross all those bridges when we get there, and we'll work on it. And, I get people calling me every day, man, wanting me to represent them in some form or fashion. And we will see. It's just I tell everybody my plate is somewhat full now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. You got a full-time job now. Back again.
I tell everybody I've had a full-time job with the Cosbys since 2010, fall of 2010 when I met him. I would say it started in 2011, really, but I remember the first event he did, and he got paid $10,000. He gave me the cash, and everything he would do, after he would do a event, a speaking engagement, they pay him, he'll give me the cash. And so that's been the relationship, and that's the relationship. I tell everybody I've been blessed to where I didn't have to worry about having to depend on getting a contract in Birmingham, although I was never going to get one really.
You consider yourself lucky, okay?
I never
I have to fight it every day.
I never wanted one because, it's a form of control and it's a form of being on the plantation. So I tell everybody, I said, I don't break the rules. I just don't go by the rules. And I make my own rules as I go. And so that's the way I have, finagled this deal. People say, well, what's the formula? I tell people every day, as I said to you earlier in the show, you got to collect people. You can collect the cars and the jewelry and the artwork for the show if you really just want the show. But when you get into trouble, you can't call that car like the TV show Knight Rider and say, "Kid, come and get me." There's no way that car can come and get you. But everybody one day, Carlos, is going to have to be able to make a phone call. And the question is, you can make the phone call, but with the person on the other end answer. So, we just got to know how to treat people, man, and treat people right and respect people. And if we could figure out how to do those few things and understand that word loyalty and trust. And if we could commandeer those two things, man, I think we could be successful and we could be a great people and we could make some things work for ourselves and do some big things for ourselves.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And Andrew, we're winding on down, man. It's been phenomenal. I appreciate you for your time tonight. I think the people have loved this. Someone said this has been inspiring. Lenore said great show, very professional and informative. Thank you both. So I think this is good. Now let me ask this, Andrew. Are we going to see any type of Dr. Bill Cosby tour within the next year?
That's the goal, man. The goal is to see his tour. The goal is to see him back out here.
Okay.
The goal is to see Mr. Cosby back on the scene some way, somehow. And we're going to have him back out here, man. I think the world wants to see him and hear from him and hear about all the great things that he's doing and will continue to do. His platform has always been, Carlos, as I said, the revolution is in the home.
Yes.
And we're going to come back, as he said, and take back our communities, man. We're going to come take it back, and we're going to uplift our communities. And we're going to do it with humor, and you're going to see some of the greatest comedy shows, man, because he's the greatest of all time. It would not be a Kevin Hart or Dave Chappelle if it wasn't for the likes of a Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, and so many greats and so many others, man. So I'm looking forward to it, man, and we'll make it happen. Matter of fact, he's called me a total of 10 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, we want you to.
If I could have got him, we would have had him say hello to everybody of you on your show. So. Oh
wow. Well, we appreciate him anyway, and please give Dr. Cosby our graces. We're here. We would love to have him on at some point. Hopefully, we'd love to talk with him. Just so that America could hear from him, and so that he doesn't have to be censored, and we can have as much time as Dr. Cosby needs for the world to understand who he was, the life, legacy, and trials of Dr. Cosby. Andrew, any final words? Yeah.
Look, final words. I tell you what, I will make sure he does your show. Now, this is a guy, you got to be a little unique with him because he's never owned a computer or cell phone in his life. They don't have.
He's never owned a cell phone in his life.
In his life.
Oh my God!
He's never owned a credit card.
Never owned he has not had to own a credit card.
So you would have to be either a phone or bring the show to him.
I want to interview Dr. Cosby in person.
Okay, so what you would have to do, you would have to bring your setup to him, and you would do it in person, but we'll make it happen.
Cool. Well,
I'm giving you my word on that because I want somebody from Birmingham, Alabama, with a show like yours to do Mr. Cosby. Although I'm from, and it's not to betray Bessemer.
Hey, and look, shout out to you for your Birmingham shirt. We see that. We see you repping Birmingham with the shirt on.
I wanted to rep it on the show, man. A guy by the name of Chris Shepard introduced me to.
Okay, I know Chris. Yeah,
who makes this shirt, and whenever I go into a different city, San Francisco, I got so many of them now. New York, Philly, I wear, especially in Philly.
Wow.
A bunch of Birmingham shirts throughout.
Wow.
Philly.
And that's how you do. Hey, rep the 205, man. We appreciate it. We certainly appreciate you. It's been great, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. You've given more insight to Dr. Cosby than I think anyone could ever imagine receiving. Again, I certainly appreciate you. And we cannot wait till we're able to sit down with Dr. Cosby and yourself. And we look forward to all the good things that you have coming, man. Right. And like Dr. Cosby said, I agree. It's your turn, Andrew. So, walk in that, be steadfast in that. And you're rocking with one of the best out there. I've said some things, when it comes from me, and I'll be completely transparent, when a woman says something, I have to believe them more times, right? I have a sister, I have a mother, and I have a niece and a grandmother and aunts. And so when allegations came forward, I'm like, okay, I can't say that, Robert Kelly is wrong and Bill Cosby's not. But now, been overturned, so I can, there's no argument for me there, but that goes to show that they do try to do everything that they can, and I see right through this. And they use these things to try to get us as black people to turn our backs on black people. So for anything that I've accused Dr. Cosby of, I apologize, because I was singing the same tune that so many others were saying. Oh yeah, he probably if 60 women said he did it, he probably did it, So that was me at some point.
Well, I tell everybody, man, social media, that's why I've never had a social media page. Social media was created to take black people away from current events of the day. You could see your friend working in a restaurant as a waiter, then they could go out on the club scene at night, post a picture of themselves in a Lamborghini, and you're asking yourself, what did I do wrong in life? Right. You just saw them working in a restaurant.
Right.
Social media is an imaginary place, and it reminds me of a TV show what I used to watch as a kid called Fantasy Island. It's just a fantasy. Yeah, it's a fictitious place of things that are 95% are not true and real. People live in these fake identities, and people want to be more than what they really are. So that's why I've never had a social media page. But it takes people away from reading the facts and doing the investigative work on their own. Yeah.
You can see something so quick and just believe it. You can take an article, don't have no validity to it whatsoever, but just because it's written, we're going to take it and we're going to run with it. So I appreciate people like you who have never had a social media, people like Dr. Cosby, who's never even on a cell phone, because you all at the very least know how to keep it real and know how to live in not this fake world, but this reality of a world we live in. So I appreciate that, Andrew. So thank you so much.
No apologies from you, man. We, as Mr. Cosby said to me and Jill Scott in 2014 when the allegations came out, I said, man, I need to know if you did this, because I have a family. I have, females in my family, and I need to know, did you actually do these things? And he said, Andrew, and with Jill Scott on the phone, he said, I would not take you guys through the valley of shame. That's all I needed to hear. And when I looked at the evidence and the facts of everything and the allegations and all the accusations made and the inconsistent statements, look, man, I knew I was going to be in for a fight, but it was a fight worth it. And it's a fight that I have no regrets. I have no regrets from the strategy that I put together. And look, man, the strategy worked. A lot of hit and misses, a lot of painful nights, a lot of heartaches throughout the process, a lot of losing clients throughout the process. But that's okay, because everything I lost, I regained tenfold. And that's what it's all about. So, Carlos, look, as long as you have a microphone, an internet connection, and an extra chair, hey, man, I'm always on your show, and I definitely have Mr. Cosby on.
Cool. I appreciate it, man. And one thing, one of his accusers, Sonny Wells, passed away on yesterday evening at the age of 72. She was one of the 60 accusers who had came forward against Dr. Cosby. What is Dr. Cosby's thoughts with her her passing on yesterday.
Always said that. Look at her accounts. She said that he was at a party and she was drinking champagne at the party, and he just came over and violently raped her at the party. She said it happened. Yeah. And she said then she went to another party with him and he violently raped her at the second party. Well, who gets violently raped at one party and then you go meet him at a second party to get raped again?
Raped again. Yeah.
You know, it's just, I'm just saying, as I tell everybody, you got to go read what they're saying. And it was one lady, Louisa Mortz. She said he walked at Johnny Carson's. Getting ready to do the Johnny Carson show, and Bill Cosby walked in, shoved his penis in my mouth backstage, just shoved it in there. And,
what?
And so we went and looked. She's one of the 60, Larissa Mortz. She passed away last year, I think. We went and found the date she gave, the actual date. Mr. Cosby was in another state performing a concert.
Wow.
So we have been able to tackle those numbers. And what I will say, just because the sheer volume of something, anybody can use the frequency to make you guilty. Just because the frequency is there doesn't mean that it's true, Carlos, because somebody could take a flashlight right now in a white glove and go through your closet and they're going to find something, right? They're going to find something in all our closets because there's nothing sacred about any of us. None of us can stand a good investigation. None of us. Mm-hmm. So go back, and I would urge, your viewers to go back, man, and read their accounts. Go get that New York magazine and read what they have to say, and you will see out of the 60, Carlos, only 10 of them are saying they were sexually assaulted.
Wow. Well, so out of 60 women that came forward, only 10 victims.
Maybe 10 to 15 are saying Beverly Johnson never said he sexually assaulted her. She said that he gave her some coffee and she started feeling woozy and she cursed him out. What did you give me? He dragged her down some stairs, threw her in the cab, and she went to sleep. She was throwing up in the cab. Now, this is his first black supermodel, throwing up in the cab. And then she goes home and sleeps for 3 days, but nobody checks on her. PJ Maston, one of the women, one of the 60s. Go look at what she's saying. She's the same woman, though, that took Marv Albert down for Biden when they took him off of the air as a sportscaster. Mm-hmm. You got to go and do the investigative work. And I tell everybody, Harvey Weinstein attorneys from Robert Kelly attorneys, I was very open with Robert attorneys. I said, look, if you don't go and highlight the inconsistencies in their statements, you're going to lose. Because a trial today, Carlos, is not done the way it was done 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. 15 years ago, you had a great opportunity to get in a fair jury trial or bench trial. But because of social media and old Q scores, Carlos, that doesn't exist anymore. The true trial happens on the steps and outside of the courtroom. That's the real trial, the trial of public opinion. And that's where you have to win today in order to taint the jury pool. And if you don't get out there and taint the jury pool, shame on you, because I guarantee you, your opponent, they're tainting the jury pool.
Yeah, they're already doing it. I can promise you that. Yep. Andrew, man, this has been probably the dopest 2 hours that I've had in a very long time, man. Thank you so much for your time. And Andrew, we can't wait to have you back, and we can't wait to have Dr. Cosby back with you as well.
You will have him. Thank you, Carlos. Have a great night.
Yes, sir. You as well. Take care. All right, everybody. That was a very, very, very explosive interview. Tonight we interviewed Andrew Wyatt, the publicist for Dr. Bill Cosby. We talked about the life, legacy, and trials of Bill Cosby. So appreciate you all for tuning in. The replay will be available immediately after this video. So thank you, everybody. And we look forward to talking to Dr. Bill Cosby very soon. Dr. Cosby will be on Culture TV very soon, everybody. We'll keep you updated on that. Again, appreciate it. You all have a very good night, and we'll be back with more. Check us out on Culture TV.
It's the Carlos Chaverst Show. You and me will always be tied. Chaverst giving up his day and night. And even when you start acting like a fool, we appreciate you cause it's all for the move. I know that I could always count on you to bring us all the new and latest news. And every day is a black man in this world. You know there's no one we'd rather hear it from. You and me will always be tight. Chaverst giving up the day and night. And even when you start acting like a fool, we appreciate you cause it's all for the